Right now, somewhere in your house, a thermostat is quietly deciding whether you live or die. You don't think about it. You just adjust it. A degree up, a degree down. Problem solved. But for most of human history, there was no dial. There was only the cold and your body and whatever you could figure out before the sun went down. The real answer to how humans survived deadly winters is far stranger than they wore fur and lit fires. It's a story about how close extinction actually came and how the solutions our ancestors found are still buried inside your body today. Start with the obvious problem. Humans are tropical animals. You have almost no fur. Your skin is thin. Your core temperature has to stay near 37 degrees Celsius or your organs start failing. Drop a naked human into a snowy landscape at minus 20 degrees and death by hypothermia can happen in under 2 hours. So how did a hairless, heat-loving primate end up surviving ice ages that lasted tens of thousands of years? The answer starts about 1.8 million years ago, long before modern humans existed. Early hominins were already pushing north into colder climates, and they carried one advantage that changed everything: fire. Anthropologist Richard Wrangham has argued that control of fire didn't just keep early humans warm, it rewired their biology. Cooked food is easier to digest, which means more usable calories from the same amount of meat or plants. More calories meant more fat reserves. More fat reserves meant a buffer against the cold. Fire wasn't just a comfort, it was a survival multiplier, and once a group had it, going without it again was no longer an option. But fire alone couldn't fight an ice age. You needed something to trap the heat once your body made it. You needed clothing. Here's where it gets interesting. Chimpanzees, our closest living relatives, have thick body hair. Humans lost most of ours somewhere between 1 and 2 million years ago. For a long time, nobody could explain why a species migrating into freezing climates would evolve to have less fur, not more. The answer is that we replaced fur with something better: removable, layered fur. Researcher Ian Gilligan has studied this shift closely, tracing how early humans moved from simple draped hides to fitted sewn clothing. The turning point was the eyed needle, a tiny bone tool with a hole punched through one end, dated to roughly 40,000 years ago in some of the coldest regions Homo sapiens ever occupied. That needle meant clothing could be tailored: sleeves, hoods, layers that trapped air against the skin instead of just draping over the body. Air is the secret ingredient here. A layer of trapped warm air insulates far better than a single thick pelt. Modern winter coats still use this exact principle. Down jackets don't work because down is thick. They work because down traps air. So by the time the last ice age reached its coldest point, around 20,000 years ago, humans weren't just wearing fur. They were engineering microclimates around their own bodies. Now picture the world they were surviving in. Ice sheets covered much of North America and Europe. Sea levels dropped so far that land bridges appeared, connecting continents that are separated by water today. Average temperatures were several degrees colder than now, and in the coldest regions, winters could last most of the year. How do you feed a group of people through months of frozen ground and no crops? You plan ahead. Archaeological sites in places like Dolní Věstonice in the modern Czech Republic show evidence of deep storage pits dug into permafrost and used like natural freezers. Meat killed in autumn could be preserved for months. This wasn't improvisation. This was seasonal logistics, built by people who understood exactly how long winter would last and how much food a group would need to reach spring. Shelter mattered just as much as food. In treeless regions of the Eurasian steppe, some groups built dwellings out of mammoth bones, stacking skulls and tusks into frameworks, then covering them with hides. It sounds almost mythical, but it's real, and it tells you something important. When the environment refuses to give you wood, you build with whatever the land actually offers. Here's the part that tends to surprise people the most. Cold wasn't only a physical problem, it was a psychological one. Winters in high latitudes bring not just freezing temperatures, but drastically shortened daylight. Some regions near the Arctic Circle experience weeks of near total darkness. Sleep researcher Thomas Wehr ran a famous experiment in the 1990s where he removed modern artificial light from participants and let them experience long nights the way ancient humans once did. The result was a strange, ancient pattern. Instead of one long sleep, participants naturally split into two segments, a period of rest, a quiet waking period in the middle of the night, and then a second sleep before dawn. That quiet waking window may have served a purpose beyond rest. Some researchers believe it created space for something communities badly needed during long winters: connection, talking, storytelling, reassurance that the group was still together, still safe, still human in the middle of a dark and dangerous season. Isolation was actually one of the biggest threats of prehistoric winters. Not just physical exposure, but the psychological weight of scarcity, darkness, and confinement in close quarters for months at a time. Groups that maintained strong social bonds were more likely to share food fairly, resolve conflicts without fracturing, and keep everyone, especially the very young and very old, alive until spring. In other words, surviving winter wasn't only about fire and fur, it was about who you trusted enough to sit beside in the dark. Now here's the twist that connects all of this directly to you. Winter wasn't just survived, it shaped human biology permanently. Populations that lived through repeated seasons of scarcity evolved metabolic adaptations for storing fat efficiently and conserving energy when food became unpredictable. Some researchers have linked this ancestral pattern to why modern humans crave calorie-dense food more intensely in colder months, and why mood and energy levels shift so noticeably as daylight shortens. Your body isn't malfunctioning when you feel sluggish in December. It's running a program that kept your ancestors alive. Physical anthropologist Eric Trinkhaus studied skeletal remains of Neanderthals and early modern humans living through Ice Age Europe, and found clear evidence of bodies adapted to extreme cold, stockier builds, shorter limbs, patterns that conserve heat by reducing surface area. Homo sapiens didn't have those same built-in advantages. What we had instead was behavioral flexibility, clothing, fire management, food storage, social cooperation. We didn't out-evolve the cold, we out-thought it. That distinction matters because it's the same trait still running your life today. You don't have thick fur or a stocky, heat-conserving frame. What you have is the same inherited instinct to prepare, to gather, to seek out warmth and company when the days get short. That's why winter still nudges you toward comfort food, toward blankets, toward calling someone instead of being alone. It's not weakness, it's 40,000 years of strategy, quietly running in the background. So the next time you adjust that thermostat without a second thought, remember what that small motion replaced. Fires that had to be tended by hand through the night, clothing sewn stitch by stitch with a bone needle just to survive till morning, food buried in frozen ground, rationed with careful precision, and people sitting close together in the dark, making sure no one had to face the winter alone. You didn't inherit a thermostat, you inherited everything that came before it.